World of Warcraft is coming into a new expansion and there's a lot of changes, and I wanted to cover in today's video the tanking side of the game. We're going to cover all the tanks and what I think are the winners and the losers going into Season 1 of The War Within. And as always, I am Benchwarmer. Thank you for stopping by. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and let me know in the comment section down below which class are you going to play moving into The War Within. And as a final disclaimer, this is my personal opinion. It might differ or might be similar to other YouTubers. However, if you are very good with the class, even if it's considered the worst spec or the worst class in existence for The War Within, if you are good at it, you will do completely fine and everything will work out, and you can push high Mythic Plus or high rating on any single tank. And in no particular order, we're going to start talking about the Protection Warrior. Moving in, nothing has really changed when it comes to the spec. You still are a mitigation tank. You still have to balance your ignore pain and your shield block. However, like all abilities in World of Warcraft, moving into The War Within, there are spell abilities and you still struggle with spell damage reduction. You have spell block and spell reflection if you talent into them. However, you may not find yourself talented into those specific abilities. But with the big changes coming in and healers become more reliant, you may not have an issue with this. And I've said before, if you are a very good tank, you will have no issue playing any of them moving into The War Within. Warriors have two hero talents. You've got Colossus and you've got Mountain Thane. Colossus, you are an absolute beast. You stand still, cast this huge ability, do a lot of damage, and you get a few extra defensive bonuses out of it. Mountain Thane will probably be the pick to go for when it comes to Mythic Plus, because you essentially don't really change anything in your playstyle. Your Thunderclap changes to do this amazing AoE, and you have a few extra defensive picks in there, and I possibly think that Mountain Thane will be the pick to go for Mythic Plus. But if you pick a Warrior, no problem whatsoever, and I really did have a lot of fun playing it on the beta, and it might be a potential for an alt main for me. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, and let's talk about the Protection Paladin. Now, I'm going to try and fit this in a minute. I don't know if I can, but I'll do my very best. I'm going to break it down to its core issues. Paladin, I don't know what they've done with the Protection Paladin, but they have absolutely ruined the class. Its self-healing absolutely sucks. Even though you have an ability now where if you leave Consecration for up to 4 seconds, you still have the benefits of Consecration, you still struggle. Whether or not you pick Lightsmith or Templar, for whatever reason, Paladins are the worst out of the tanks at the moment. And if I was going to put it in a spec, I'd put it in like F tier, or even worse if there is a possibility of those. They do not stack very well with any other tank. They do not compare with any other tank. And in its current stage, you will not pick Paladin for anything. You will not see Protection Paladins in the Mythic Plus scene. When it comes to higher tier Mythic Plus, you will not see a Protection Paladin in a higher Mythic rating situation, because there are so many better picks out there. It is the worst of the worst. Even though you have Lay on Hands, Blessing of Protection, Freedom, Blessing of Sacrifice, all of these different utilities, it doesn't make up for its absolute failure of a tank at the moment. It just doesn't seem to work, and I think looking at all of the tier lists and other videos, people are agreeing with that situation. It's something I found very early on, and I just didn't really enjoy playing it. I don't know what they've done, but they need to fix something, and that's all I'm going to say about Protection Paladin. People that do play Protection Paladin, don't at me, don't be mad at me. It's just the way it is. That's just the way that Protection Paladin is at the moment, and I've got nothing more to say. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about the Guardian Druid. Woo-hoo-hoo! Guardian Druid is going to be one of the best tanks at the moment. Absolute juice when it comes to it. And the thing that I enjoy the most is the fact that it is a very easy tank to play. You don't have to do a lot of things. You have to balance your Iron Fur and your Rage. That's literally it. I personally think that Elune's Chosen will be the pick to go for when it comes to a Mythic Plus, because you have a lot of abilities that boost your healing, boost your protection, and even with the massive changes in the tanking situation in The War Within, where it's all reliant on healers, I still found myself as a Guardian Druid not really relying that much on a healer still. There is one hero talent that will not be picked, I know for a fact, in Mythic Plus, and that is Druid of the Claw, because for me it's just too risky. When you move into cat form, you still maintain 80% of the benefit of a Guardian Druid. However, you still will risk a lot of protectiveness if you are going to be in a higher Mythic Plus scene. However, I can completely see in the raiding situation, you'll be a fantastic off tank, or when you don't have aggro of the boss, you can switch in to a cat form with the Druid of the Claw, do a bit more damage, and then bounce back into your bear form. I personally think that it was built around raiding, and I think Druid of the Claw is going to be the pick for the raiding, and Elune's Chosen will be the pick for the Mythic Plus. But for me, I personally think that Guardian Druid will be my main moving in, but we'll see what happens. Now moving on to the Vengeance Demon Hunter, the current absolute reigning champions when it comes to retail, and in the current MDI that's just happened, they are the absolute best. Moving into into the War Within, they are no longer the best. They have been slightly changed, and I think personally they're going to be in the middle class, shall we say, the middle tier compared to other tanks. And the reason being is, the reason why it's so strong at the moment is because you have a lot of sigils. Your sigil of flame, sigil of chains and everything are very powerful, and it works really well with your 4-set bonus in current retail. When it comes over to the War Within, you no longer have your 4-set, and your sigils are slightly changed, so you don't have double up of the sigils. You only have one double, which is Sigil of Flame, but that wasn't the best. So your utility has been a massive issue in the War Within, and it will continue to be an issue, and I don't think it will be no longer the best. And of course, moving into another season of Mythic Plus and Radiant, you don't want a reigning tank to be the current reigning champions of the next expansion. So I would say probably 3rd or 4th best when it comes to a Demon Hunter. However, if you do enjoy the playstyle, I personally don't, because I don't like running away. I know it's built into the spec, built into the class. Whether or not you pick Eldrazi Reaver or Felscard, it doesn't really matter if you're good at the tank, and I think there's going to be a lot of tanks moving over from the Demon Hunter to maybe somewhere else. But if you stick with your current spec, you won't have any issues. You'll still have a lot of fun. It just won't be absolutely gigabusted compared to what it is in retail. Now we're going to move over to Death Knight. Death Knight is absolutely busted. They've had a massive rework moving into the War Within, and I personally think that Guardian Druid and Blood Death Knight are the top picks at the moment for the best tanks, and I would be very, very surprised to see which one will be the absolute best. Compared the two, I would say probably Druid is the best just because it has a little bit more utility. However, if you want to look absolutely amazing and do amazing damage and self-healing, Death Knights will be absolutely fantastic. Whether or not you pick Deathbringer or Sanlin or Sanlane, whichever way you want to do, no issue whatsoever, absolutely busted. What I will say is that it is still the top, but it isn't as great at what it was when it first came out on the beta, because with the tanking changes, Death Knights have had a few different tweaks. One of those is your yo-yoing of health. You no longer go from 100% to 10% to 90% to 10% to 100%, you get the gist, because of how Death Strike has changed. Because what's happened is you can only gain health from that one instance of damage every however long it is. So you can't go from 100 to 0 to 100 to 0 and so on and so forth. You are a little bit more reliant on healers, but you are still absolutely busted, and you are still up there with the top tanks. And of course, moving into logic, when you are a massive reworked class moving into a new expansion, you want to make sure as a developer, I'm sure, that you are really, really good. They've done really well with balancing, but I think Death Knights are going to be up there when it comes to the best tanks. And last but not least is the Brewmaster Monk. Now I'm going to call Brewmaster Monk a sleeper build, and the reason why I say that is that when they first came into the beta, they weren't the best, they weren't the worst, they were sort of like middle of the pack. Had a few stagger issues, but I think that was a bug that Blizzard fixed quite quickly, and they were nice to play. And then when the tanking changes came out, everybody got nerfed. But when it comes to the Monk, they were actually buffed, which is quite nice to see. The few things that they adjusted when it came to the tanking changes wasn't really a massive issue for us in the first place, and with our stamina buff and the way the stagger works, we actually come out stronger in comparison to other tanks. So it was nice to see where there was massive negativity in the entirety of this tanking change, that the Brewmaster came out on top when it came to it. Now that might change when it comes to retail. There's, just over a month before retail comes out, probably a few more changes coming in, even though we are on the retail build apparently, but there might be some changes. However, I would say that Monk has moved from the middle of the pack to probably the 3rd best, very close to a Protection Warrior. However, that is my current take. The winners and the losers of the tanking scene in the War Within. Now, personally, if you want a tier list, if you want just a very quick TLDR or TLDW, Guardian Druid or Blood Death Knight, avoid Paladin, Demon Hunter's no longer the best, Brewmaster and Warrior, absolutely fantastic. And that's pretty much it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was in the 5 minutes that I said I was going to do. My name is Benchwarmer. Thank you for stopping by. Smash that thumbs up button. Write down a comment. Which tank are you going to play, or which spec will you play in the War Within? And hit that subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.